there, welcome back to my channel where today I'm going to be talking about eyeshadow palettes that I wish I hadn't bought. To me, this is different from a declutter video where I might have a palette that I used for a while and eventually grew out of, or it was replaced by more interesting palettes. These are just going to be palettes that I had some buyer's remorse over, like, shouldn't have bought that. So if you're interested in seeing that, then don't go anywhere. I did film this eyeshadow look and it will be linked down below. And if you are new to my channel, hello and welcome. My name is Rachel. I'm a homeschooling stay-at-home mom who loves to play with colorful eyeshadow. So if you're interested in seeing lots of colorful content on your timeline from tutorials and rankings and palette collections, I hope you'll consider liking and subscribing because currently I'm uploading about 3 videos a week. All right, I'm gonna scooch to the side here so that we can look at some palettes. I do love to look at eyeshadow palettes. I do. I really do. Okay, so I'm just gonna dive right in. My baby's napping and I'd like to get this video done before she starts waking up. I think I'm gonna start with possibly a palette that you know I'm gonna start with if you've watched several of my videos. It is the Sapphire palette from BH Cosmetics Birthstone series. Now, I love BH Cosmetics' more recent formulas. I'm a little scared that they've been taken over by Makeup Revolution. Hopefully the formula doesn't suffer. We'll see. That's a separate video. But I bought this palette based off of the recommendation of Angelica Nyqvist, whom I love. She's my favorite YouTuber. The problem is that she and I have different undertones. She has more yellowy gold undertones to her skin, whereas my undertones are more blue. And so on her, any color of blue eyeshadow is gonna look great. It's just gonna contrast so beautifully with her skin tones. But I have to be more careful with blue eyeshadow, although I do love it. I need to be careful particularly with dark blues and more purpley blues because they make me look weary and a little haggard and tired. So this palette is great quality. Actually all of the palettes in this series, I have 5 of them. They're all really nice. I hate the pressed glitters. They're dead to me. They're not there. The rest of the palettes are great. They are the new updated BH Cosmetics quality. They're just really nice palettes, and I do like the color story of this palette, but I didn't understand my own undertones at the time that I bought it. And if I had, I wouldn't have bought it. In fact, that's the reason I'm not gonna buy the Midnight palette from Beauty Bay that was recently launched, because I adore blue and purple together, but there are so many really deep tones in that palette, which I want in a palette in order to deepen out the outer corner. I always want a deep shade. But there are so many that I think wouldn't get used because they just make me look tired. I really need 1 deepening shade for a blue look. I don't need 7 or 8. So anyway. Again, a different topic, but this is a really nice palette. I like it. The only reason that I wish I hadn't bought it was because I never use it. The first time I used it, I definitely dipped into these dark blues and I ended up looking quite tired. You can find the video on my channel if you're really interested. It wasn't great. The second time I used it, I paired it with the Peridot palette and I used this green tone, and that was a little bit better, a little more interesting, but I had paired it with something else. I'm going to be doing a video using this palette for September because it is September's birthstone, and I'm probably going to dip into the green and the silver shade and just avoid the dark blues altogether. And then I'm going to declutter the palette because I think it's really nice, but it's just not the right colors for my skin, and so I shouldn't have bought it. Next palette that I want to talk about is actually 2 palettes from udenzai. Now I love udenzai. They are actually one of my favorite brands. I bought some palettes last year during Black Friday sales, which ended up being my Christmas gifts. Last year was all eyeshadow palettes for Christmas. And when I was on udenzai website, I thought, well, hey, this stuff is coming from, I think it's shipped from Hong Kong. Anyway, it's coming from across the world. It has to travel across oceans and I have to pay shipping, so I might as well spend a little bit more money because of the sales and get a couple extra palettes and make it worth the while, you know? I got the Elva 2 Mini Forest and Mini Ocean palette. Let's see if I can hold them both up for you. Yeah, that works. Okay, Mini Forest, Mini Ocean. The color stories are really pretty, the quality is great. I do really like the shadows, and I don't regret buying these because of the color stories. I regret buying them because I have learned now, and this also pertains to the Birthstone series, that I prefer a palette that's kind of between 9 and 15 shades. The really big palettes are overwhelming and I tend to not reach for them. And the really little palettes, like 6 shades or quads, I don't reach for those either. They're small, they get lost, they get knocked behind things in my collection, I forget about them, and they don't offer enough variety for a single eye look because I tend to use 4 to 5 shadows per eye look. So if you give me a quad, that's my whole look. with not much variety. And with a quad, you could either have a monochromatic sort of thing, where the look is going to be the same no matter what you do, or you might have 4 totally different colors, in which case nothing works together and you still need to dip into other palettes. So I just personally don't really like a palette that's smaller than 9 pans, because I don't feel like it offers enough options. Now these palettes, I will say, are 6 shades, and they do have a decent variety as far as options. In each palette we've got 2 mattes, and then we've got several shimmers in different tones. So this brown matte works with this peachy shimmer, the green shimmer, and the yellow shimmer. And then the blue matte also works with the yellow shimmer and the green shimmer and the blue shimmer. And then you could even use the peachy shimmer with the blue shimmer. Like, they do work together. You get some nice looks and enough variety. This one doesn't have enough depth for my personal tastes. And then this one, blue matte, works well with the dark blue shimmer, the light blue shimmer, the purpley pinky sort of silver shimmer. And then this orangey matte works nicely with the brown shimmer. And it could be a pretty interesting look with the blue shimmer. I'm not sure the orange would look great with either of these. So again, you get mattes that work with shimmers, and all in all, it's not bad considering it's a small palette. It is interesting. I do like the color stories. There just aren't enough options for me to make it really interesting, and not enough depth either. So I like these palettes. I think that in hindsight, I shouldn't have gotten them, because now I know myself better and I know that I prefer a few more options to choose from, you know what I mean? I'm gonna talk about Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde. I got this palette. I was pretty excited about it because I knew it was really good quality, and I also knew it was an expensive palette, and I was excited to get it for the low price when I bought it secondhand. I have nothing bad to say about this palette. It's a good palette, it's good quality, it performs nicely. I have 2 different videos where I did like a first impression, and then I ended up doing a 1 palette 5 looks video, because I knew I wasn't using it and I wanted to challenge myself to really be creative. I know that this is many people's go-to palette, and I wanted to give it a chance, and I've done that. I have liked it, but for my own personal tastes and preferences, it's just not exciting enough. It doesn't offer enough color options, enough variety, although it's got nice depth here. These 2 colors can be used to deepen out pretty much any matte, so it does have enough depth. I like the different textures, I like the different formulas. This shade right here is fantastic, but it has too many neutrals for my taste. It's just not a very exciting palette, and where I am in life right now, I like to wear exciting colors on my eyes. I like bold, bright colors. It's definitely a creative expression for me, as opposed to an everyday, you know, add a little bit of contouring to make my eyes look more youthful or whatever. That's not really why I use eyeshadow. I use eyeshadow as personality expression, and so this palette is nice. I like it, but I'm going to pass this one along to somebody who will appreciate it more. Now let's talk, oh dear, I have 2 Colourpop palettes. That's not really a surprise, because I started off having a lot of Colourpop, since that was the company I bought exclusively for the first 6 months or so of using eyeshadow. The 2 palettes that I want to mention in this video are the Lizzie McGuire What Dreams Are Made Of. I think the main reason that this palette's in today's video is because of the glitter. This might be the only glitter that I have left in my collection right here. And I've actually given this palette to my daughter because she liked the color story. I like the color story a lot. I think it's got some really, really pretty shadows. I really like this row of purple. I really like the greens. I think it's a nice color story. It's a great springy sort of palette. The pinks and the greens and the purples. It's light toned, it's lighthearted and fun. But I don't like the glitter, and it also doesn't have enough depth for me to get a really interesting look. I like this palette. It's great quality, and I really do like the color story and everything. It doesn't excite me anymore. It doesn't offer the depth that I want, and that pressed glitter, I so wish that this pressed glitter were a shimmer. A really peachy shimmer would have made this palette so much better. So, I'm not gonna pass this one along in a declutter. I've decluttered it officially, but I've given it to my daughter. The other palette from Colourpop is the Limoncello palette. It kind of breaks my heart to include this in the video, but if I'm being honest with myself, I should not have bought this palette. I like this palette. I think it's really nice. It's great quality. It performs beautifully, and it's really, really good for a neutral, warm eyeshadow look. You can put little pops of color between the blue, the green, and the yellows, but aside from that, it's quite neutral, and I don't wear neutrals. When I want a neutral shade, this is the palette I go for, because this is the only neutrally palette in my collection that I can think of. I really think it is. Mercury Retrograde would have been my other neutral one, and that one's being passed along. So, I'll be honest, the reason that I bought this palette, I told my sister about it, because I was a little bit ashamed of myself. I lived in Italy for a little while, not long enough. I love all things Italian. I love the language, I love the music, I love the culture, I love the food. I just love everything Italian. And so this palette's packaging just sold me. I love the packaging. I love the name Limoncello. I love the watercolory sort of tile aspect with the lemons on the back here as well. I love the detail, like the lemons are textured. They actually have a little bit of a citrus rind sort of texture to them, and then the insides of the lemons here are textured as well, and they're just raised and embossed. And then it's a thicker palette than Colourpop's other cardboard packaging, and it also is the first time, as far as I can recall, that they started to do the bigger pan sizes. So it was an interesting palette all around. I love this really good quality mirror, the little lemon elements over here, the way that the packaging design carries through, and then on the inside here, it's like a leatherette sort of texture. This cardboard, it feels like fabric rather than cardboard. It's just really, really well done, and it makes me smile. It makes me happy. I have found that I really love the lemon and blue motif. I had a planner last year that was watercolors, lemon and blue, and I love the packaging. And I like the color story. It's not that I dislike the color story, but I should not have bought it simply for the packaging because it doesn't get a lot of use. Now, when I do use this palette, I always like my look. But I tend to only use a couple of the shades, and several of them don't really get much attention. I don't think I'll declutter this palette because it makes me smile, and when I use it I like the result. It's just I probably shouldn't have bought it in the first place because it's not really up my alley as far as the actual product, the eyeshadow itself. And at the end of the day, we buy eyeshadow palettes for the eyeshadow, at least I do. And the last palette that I want to talk about today is the Love Notes palette from Beauty Bay. Again, this is a nice palette. Drop it. It's standard, good quality Beauty Bay formula. It performs exactly as I expected that it would. From my experience with Beauty Bay, it's a nice palette. But since buying this, I've learned that I don't really wear a lot of pink eyeshadow. Go down through my YouTube video history, which honestly is most of my eyeshadow looks. Once in a while I do a look and I don't film it at all. Once in a while I do a look and I film a mini tutorial for Instagram Reels, but generally what you see on YouTube is pretty much what I'm doing, and there are not a lot of pink looks on there. Honestly, I think the last pink look I did was Valentine's and this palette. So the reason I would say I regret purchasing this palette is because while it does offers a nice variety of light, medium, and dark tone mattes, and then shimmers that work with the mattes, and it also has kind of 4 different color stories. I see gold, berry, peachy pink, and then lilac and lavender over here. I would have edited this palette down. If I were creating it, I would have edited it down because this diagonal row here, this diagonal row here, and then these two, a little bit too close. I mean, I would say redundant. They're not exact dupes. None of them are exactly the same, but they're just too close. You easily could have done this in like a 12 pan and gotten the same color story with the same impact with fewer shades and a slightly lower cost. This wasn't an expensive palette, but I think it was limited edition, and because of that the price is a little bit higher. I wouldn't go back and buy it again. I kind of got sucked up into the whole limited edition, buy it now, and then I thought, well, I can make videos for it and then, you know, get views on my channel. That didn't really work out. I mean, the videos I've made with this palette haven't gotten any more views than most of my other videos, and I don't love the palette. It doesn't excite me, and I feel like a lot of people might feel that way. It's just not the most exciting palette, and so perhaps that's why those videos didn't get a lot of engagement. I don't know. But again, at the end of the day, I do eyeshadow for myself. Making a video of it is just a little bit of a bonus side hobby for me. This is a nice palette, but I probably wouldn't go back and get it again. In fact, now and then I consider passing it along just because I don't tend to reach for it. And if I did reach for it, I might go in for the shimmers. I don't know. It's also worth noting that Beauty Bay is not my absolute favorite formula. Beauty Bay does not build very well. My preferred style of eyeshadow is to start light and work dark, but with Beauty Bay you have to start dark and go lighter from there because otherwise the colors don't build on each other very nicely and you'll start getting patchiness. So I wouldn't go back and buy it again, because of a mix of the color story and how there are kind of a lot of repeat or unnecessary shades, and also the fact that Beauty Bay is just not my favorite formula. So there you go, that's my video as far as palettes that I probably shouldn't have bought. There would have been other palettes included, but I've decluttered them at this point and I didn't really want to try to go back and remember palettes that I used to have. It doesn't matter. These are palettes that are currently in my life. Most of them are going to stay in my collection for the time being because I do like them and I do see value in them. I just probably shouldn't have bought them to begin with. I'm definitely going to pass along the Mercury Retrograde and Sapphire. I might pass on Love Notes. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And until we see each other again, I do hope you have a really wonderful day. Bye!